discuss the verbal ability section, the verbal ability and reading comprehension section of the All India Open Mock for IIM BUG. Alright. As you can see, the first question is the reading comprehension. So I'll go through the paragraph myself and then we'll solve the questions that follow. And if I see any difficult words or a new vocabulary of any sort or a new type of a question, I'll go and explain that as well, okay? Alright, this is the line that I feel that is important. Implementation credibility gap. Alright, this passage about management and the change, like if you have to implement some sort of policy in your company, this is what the passage is talking about. So I've gone through the passage and I also expect that you've also gone through the passage, and now we'll see the questions that follow, okay? Okay, this is the first question on your screen. Good afternoon. Did you go through the passage? This is the passage, original passage. I have highlighted whatever felt okay to me. Okay. Which of the following best captures the central argument of the passage? Alright. Central argument, you know what the main idea, that central argument is another title for main idea. Okay. Cultural transformation succeeds only when leaders take full control of behavioral change across all levels. It is talking about leaders taking full control on all levels. Seems a bit extreme, right? So I will not take this one as the answer. Cultural change is possible only through slow structural reforms rather than shifts in everyday behavior. Okay, it is making sense that cultural change is possible through slow structural reforms. This is what the passage was also talking about. Real cultural transformation emerges from everyday interactions, requires time and often fails due to contradictions in organizational place. See, it is also talking about the contradiction present. Okay, this option is slightly better than option number B. Why? Because it is taking in account the contradiction mentioned in the passage. Most cultural initiatives fail because employees resist any kind of change introduced by top leadership. Again, employees resist any kind of change. This is not what the passage is trying to imply. So this option is also wrong. Lastly, C is the right answer. Okay. Now let's see question number 2. The implementation credibility gap primarily refers to, it is a question based on understanding, and I highlighted implementation credibility gap. What follows is, leaders often describe inspiring visions for transformation but continue using decision making systems and reward structures that contradict those visions. Okay. Leaders misunderstanding employees' resistance to new value systems. It's now talking about employees' resistance, right? The mismatch between what leaders promise and the systems they continue to enforce. Yes, it is talking about they promise something else and something else is being enforced. Employees' inability to recognize, it's not an issue with the employees, so obviously this option is wrong. Lack of communication between frontline employees and executive leadership. No mention of frontline employees has been given, so we are left with option number B, and this is the right answer in this case, okay? Alright, let's go ahead. Which of the following best explains why employees often show only surface level participation in transformation programs? Surface level participation. They lack professional training to understand organization strategy. The passage is not talking about professional training anywhere, so I will refrain from picking this option. They see transformation as symbolic because results are expected too quickly and contradictions remain unsolved. This is somewhat talking about the contradictions, but I would go back to the paragraph because time also works against transformation. Organizations want quick results that fit reporting cycles, but meaningful cultural change happens slowly. When quick wins don't appear, organizations declare failure too soon, creating a cycle of frustration in which employees participate only on the surface, right? Results are expected too quickly. So this option is the right one. We would still check the rest two of the options. Frontline employees usually oppose any additional work responsibilities. Usually oppose any additional work responsibilities. It is not mentioned, so this option is wrong. They are rarely included in leadership discussions about future planning. It is not mentioned anywhere, so I will refrain from picking this option. We are left with option number B, which is your answer. All right. Which of the following themes most strongly underpins the entire passage? See, a lot of themes can occur in one single passage, but it is saying most strongly underpins. That means the most widely present theme has been asked. Okay, this is just another way of saying that which of the theme was most widespread. Okay. The structural weaknesses of hierarchical organization and their resistance to modernization. Yes, it is talking about some sort of weakness, structural weakness, but not necessarily resistance to modernization. Okay. The contrast between rhetorical ambition and practical execution in attempts to reshape organizational culture. See, rhetorical means something metaphorical. Okay, metaphorical, which is said, which means something else when taken literally, but it is said to highlight something else, okay, something different, okay. Maybe if I were to say, what am I doing with my life? So right now I am at work, I am completing my targets, I am teaching students, but if I were to take it rhetorically or metaphorically, then it can transform into a big philosophical questions, right? So that is a difference. So rhetorical ambition or something that is only said, right, and practical execution in attempts to reshape organizational culture. So these two things are repeatedly mentioned in the passage, so might be the right answer, but as always I will go through all the options and then pick the best one. The psychological tendency of employees that hinder meaningful workplace change. Psychological tendencies, this keyword alone made it very technical and changed the theme of the passage. The superiority of decentralized leadership in managing long-term transformation programs. Decentralized leadership is mentioned in the passage. Indirectly it is there, but it is not talking about any kind of transformation programs. It is just talking about implementation and how to create progress from that. So after all the four options, analyzing four options, we are left with B as the right answer. Okay. Right. Now I have to fill in the blank with these four words. Her concern for the earthquake victims dash her reputation as a callous person. Okay. There is her is the subject, right? First, she is having a reputation as a callous person. See, callous means insensitive, okay? But that callous person is showing a concern for the earthquake victims, right? So that means whatever word comes here basically balances these two inversive or inverted opinions, right? At one clause, at one side, she's being called as a callous person, and on the other side, she is showing the concern for the earthquake victims, right? All right. If I were to select restored, restored basically is used to reinforce or to reapply something that was lost before, right? But her reputation was bad and now she had done something good, so obviously restoration will not work here. Rescinded, rescinded means to end, but it is often used in the matters of legal matters or matters of official meaning or court, okay? So rescinded will again not fill in the blank. Created, created her reputation. No, her reputation was already there. This event actually changed her reputation. So created will also not come in the blank. Lastly, belied. Belied means to deny something, okay? She already had the reputation as a callous person, but when she showed the concern for the earthquake victims, her reputation got belied or her reputation was denied by this act, okay? So D is the answer. D is the answer, okay? Now you are given 4 parts of a sentence and you have to identify that which word or a word in which of these parts works as an adverb, okay? A very interesting example of moral policing appears in a recent conversation. See, here very is modifying or very is increasing the value of something being interesting, right? I could have said an interesting example, right? I could have said and that would have changed the sentence, but the moment I add a very interesting example, it says the intensity of the interesting thing has increased, okay? If you were to analyze other sections, interesting example, here example is a noun, interesting is an adjective. Similarly, moral policing is again an abstract noun. Then appears in a recent, recent is again an adjective, appears is a verb. So lastly we are left with very as the adverb in this case. Understood? So A would be the answer, right? This is another RC. Go ahead and read it for a while, okay? I'll read it as well. This is an important line. All right. So basically this passage is talking about, even though we can implement AI systems for the help in management, but at the same time it cannot really replace what an actual manager would do, and additionally it is going to harm or it is going to hinder the work done. Alright. Okay, now let's see the questions that follow. Which option best captures the central idea of the passage? As you know, central idea is the main idea. AI will ultimately replace human managers in most organization roles. Ultimately replace, first it is extreme, plus nowhere the placement thing is mentioned. In fact, the whole passage is talking about the difference between the two. Okay. Algorithmic management improves efficiency but creates hidden social, ethical and judgment related problems. Absolutely. If you look here, it is saying managers may lose critical judgment skills. Okay. So this sentence is not only highlighting the benefits but also highlighting the problems being created by the algorithm systems. Most organizations misunderstand AI because they lack technical expertise. No misunderstanding is being presented here, only counter effects are being listed. AI is ineffective unless workers participate directly in algorithm design. Algorithm design was nowhere mentioned. So, in this case, B would be the right answer. Understood? What can be inferred about manager's relationship with algorithm? Manager's relationship, okay? All right. They fully trust algorithmic decisions and rarely challenge them. Fully trust algorithmic decisions. Nothing about trust was being said in the passage, all right? They treat algorithmic advice as one input among many. Okay, may or may not be true, but we'll select the better option. They often feel reduced authority even when they formally remain in charge. Yes, somewhere in the passage there was a line. Managers using these systems often feel they have less control even if they appear to make the final decision. There is this line which supports this option, right? They prefer manual decision making. No, prefer manual, it is not mentioned anywhere, right? So, lastly, what would be the right answer? C option would be the right answer, okay? Which theme most strongly underlies the passage? Again, main theme has been asked. See, this kind of questions should retain your faith among the possibility of main theme, right? Main idea, tone, all these things. You need to work your way through these things so that you can answer these kind of questions in the exam. Ethical and human dimensions of management are threatened when decision making becomes overly optimized. Okay, human dimensions are mentioned. Alright, let's see what the other options are saying. Managers should resist technology to preserve traditional authority. No, should resist technology is sort of an advice which is not being offered by the passage. Organizations must focus exclusively on productivity to survive. Focus exclusively. First, it is very extreme. Second, it is not mentioned. Automation inevitably eliminates all workplace inequalities. Automation inevitably eliminates. No, extreme and also not mentioned. So, A would be the right answer. Okay. Now, in the passage, the word brittle most nearly means. See, it's a question of vocab and it is saying most nearly means. So, you don't have to answer the actual meaning of the brittle, but what it is signifying in the passage. Let's find out. This can create brittle systems that struggle in unfamiliar situations. What can? Managers may lose critical judgment skills, and this is creating brittle systems. Okay, let's see. What are the options? Easily damaged when faced with new challenge. Yes, their judgment skills are deteriorating, so it can be easily damaged. Emotionally fragile, temporarily inefficient, overly complex. See, we're talking about the systems when the manager is losing critical judgment skills, okay, and they are getting dependent on automated recommendation. That is why it is, this word brittle is defining systems, okay, it is an adjective for the word system, right? So the best meaning in this case would be, obviously your system will not be emotionally fragile, right, or temporarily inefficient. So A would be the right answer in this case. All right. Okay, now we have our cloze test before us. Let's try that. Dash medicine has been operated by trial and error. In other words, we know by now that there can be entirely dash connections between symptoms and treatment, and some medications succeed in medical trials for mere random reasons. Okay, dash medicine has been operated by trial and error. Okay, in other words, see, I'll see the second blank. Okay, I'll check the second blank first, and trial and error has been mentioned, and then it is said in other words. That means the word filling this blank is basically signifying trial and error. So out of these, randomly, analytically, statistically, these words, or arbitrarily. Statistically and analytically do not signify trial and error. So I will eliminate these options. Now I am left with arbitrarily or randomly. Randomly, again, it is just talking about some random output. Trial and error, whereas says that you keep on trying again and again. So arbitrarily would fit better, but I would still solve the question nevertheless. Now I have to choose between formerly or historically. If I were to fit formerly, medicine has been operated by trial and error, it would mean that before it was used by trial and error, but now something has changed. But no, even by now, there can be entirely connections and mere random reasons. That means things have not been changed. So formerly would not be the right choice, historically would be the right choice, and D option would fit the best. Okay. There's a word. I don't think you will find all these words difficult. Only fortuitous means difficult. That means fortuitous word is difficult for you. Basically, it means coincidentally. Or completely by chance. Right? Okay. So D is the answer in this case. Let's go ahead. Identify the part of sentence with grammatical error. Okay. I called a carpenter as the table's leg was broken and it was not properly balanced. See, in this case, apostrophe S is there after table. Okay. Apostrophe S is used in case of showing possession, but it is only used for the living beings. Okay. Table here is an inanimate object. So you will not say table's leg. This is wrong. You have to say leg of the table in order to show connection or possession. Okay, the table does not possess the leg, okay, just a part of the table structure. So leg of the table would be the right phrase here. Hence the error is in B section. Understood? Two sentences, 1 and 2 are given. Each sentence has a blank in it. Out of the given words, only one fits at both the places in the context of each sentence, right? Pick the most appropriate option. Basically, you have to pick one word which will fill both these blanks, right? The manager dash manager is not dash for his position. In a dash of anger, the teacher turned him out of the class. See, it is very easy. In a fit of anger. Fit of anger is a phrase, okay, which means sudden fury, right? It is a phrase, and fit of anger, again, fit for his position, fit of anger. So B is the right answer, okay? Now you have to complete this paragraph, alright? Let's read it. The issue is, while there has been a significant improvement in energy and resource efficiency, there has not been an absolute reduction in environmental impact. It is generally increasing. Some commentators even argue that improvements in technology have actually driven an increase in consumption, a phenomenon referred to as the rebound effect. Please keep in mind that the rebound effect, after rebound effect, there is a placement of a colon. That means the statement here should either describe rebound effect or maybe give an example, alright? Similarly, automated process and huge industrial farms have meant more food can be produced more efficiently. The paragraph is not talking about farms or agriculture, okay? So, we will not take this option. So yes, increasing automation and smart technologies do promise sweeping changes to society with the potential to liberate human population from the mundane. Potential to liberate human population from the mundane. Again, it made the entire sentence really out of context from the passage. With cars, for example, the efficiency savings made by robots have meant more people can afford to buy a new vehicle, thus leading to an upsurge in overall emissions. What did I tell you? That either there should be a definition of rebound effect, which is saying that technology drives an increase in consumption, but there is an example of car which is saying that technology has only made a lot of people afford cars now. So this is a good example of rebound effect. So C would be the answer. Thus, automation will not necessarily deliver a positive outcome for sustainability. We need to manage our consumption. D can be a good fill in the blank, but as I said, after rebound effect there is a colon and you are supposed to either define this or give a good example. So that is why C in this case would be the right answer, okay? A part of the paragraph or sentence has been underlined. From the choices given to you, you are required to choose the one which would best replace the underlined part. Okay, you have to basically grammatically correct the part, okay? My younger sister can write a few alphabets. Now, alphabet, this word alphabet, first of all, it is not alphabets, it is always alphabet. Alphabet, this word itself means collection. Collection of letters or collection of vowels and consonants. Okay, your regular A, B, C, D. Right, it is a collection, it is basically a noun, a collective noun used for your vowels and consonants combined, right? So, adding an S here is the wrong practice first. Then you do not write alphabet, okay? You do not write alphabet, you always write the letters of the alphabet, okay? Alphabet, basically think of it as a book or think of it as a box and it is containing a lot of letters. Letters are not your normal writing wala letters but your consonant and your vowels, right? So out of these options, a few letters of the alphabet would be the best answer. Understood? Do not make this mistake neither while writing it nor while speaking it, okay? It looks really bad, okay? So that today you know that alphabet is nothing but a collective noun for your letters, okay? Yeah, so that's it, dear students. That was the verbal ability section, and now we'll be solving the logical ability section in a while, all right?